Hello, everyone. James Wilson here. And as you may know, I'm not a big fan of the coronavirus or so called the Delta variant. Um, I know in my title it says Delta variant, and that is because it was just a bunch of clickbait. As you may know, all my listeners, my subscribers, I talk politics. I talk about strategic in politics. I talk about election predictions. I talk about numbers and that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the quote unquote Delta variant. I'm not going to talk about the coronavirus. I'm going to talk about um, Delta variant in a way, how the Democrats are going to try to use this Delta variant, and I'm going to say maybe at that point it's going to be called an Alpha variant. you know, I mean, it's going to be Delta, there's going to be Charlie, and it's going to be Alpha. I mean, this is just my prediction, but the Democrats are going to use this to do the mail-in ballots. Okay, so. Right now, it's called the Delta COVID variant. I think it's going to be called eventually the Alpha variant or the Alpha something. I mean, it's all bullcrap anyway. So, no, I'm not going to talk about Delta. I don't care. I am going to talk about why the Democrats are going to use this virus as a reason to do mail-in ballots. And I am going to actually dive into some numbers, actually. I found something that was very interesting. I'm actually going to dive into some numbers. And I'm going to also make a very early generic prediction of how the midterms are going to go based on a couple of things, mail-ins versus non-mail-ins. And I'm going to dive into some numbers as far as a voter turnout. So without further ado, I did some number crunching. I did some mathematics because I really wanted to know for sure. Because people may call me a conspiracy theory about mail-ins and all this stuff, and all you freaking talk about is mail-ins. Well, I'm going to talk about mail-ins again. And so without further ado, this right here is the Senate prediction. Okay, so the states that are in silver or gray, they don't have any elections this year. The solid blue are solid blue states, and the solid red are solid red states. The rest of the states, they were not solid. They were either likely, leans, or toss-ups. And so I'm going to give just a generic prediction based on what may happen, because it just depends on how they vote, folks. Okay, but before I make my prediction, I want to tell you what I did. And I can do this in all 50 states. It would just take forever for me to do it. But I did go with just the 6 states that Trump and the Republicans were disputing. Claiming that the election was possible fraudulent. I want to compare these 6 states. And what I did was I compared, and I'm going to show you real quick. I compared the turnout in presidential elections versus turnout in the midterms. And what I did was I put it in a percentage calculator, and it calculated the percentage. So for this example here, you have 5.9. That's actually 5.9 million versus 3.7 million. So this particular state was Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, and what I did was in the 2 elections, I added all the votes up, divided by 2, rounded it out, and it came to 5.9 million per election. That's the total amount of votes that was casted in the state of Pennsylvania, about 5.9 million. And in the midterms, it was 3.7 million. So without further ado, I want to talk about it, and I'm going to compare it to the state of Oregon, because Oregon does mail-in ballots. They do massive mail-in ballots. They've been doing it since 2000. And I couldn't compare Colorado because Colorado, they just started doing mail-in ballots in 2014. So I can't really compare that. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and talk about these numbers. So Arizona, when you look at the presidential election versus the midterms, the percent difference was 36%. That means 36% less votes in the midterms. Or you can say 30% of more people voted in the presidential election. And when you look at it, when you look at the numbers, 36% turnout was lower by 36% in the midterms. Turnout was lower in the midterms. You see the number of votes here, folks. And Georgia, a lot lower, 40% lower. Wisconsin, 26%. So more people, looks like more people do participate in the voting system in the midterms in Wisconsin. Why? I don't know why. Maybe they're more educated up there. Maybe they have a little bit more knowledge as far as the overall population. I'm not really sure. Michigan, 42%. You see that? 42% less votes. And in Pennsylvania, 46%. Way down. The turnout was way down in Pennsylvania. Now let's talk about the mail-in. So in the state of Oregon, look at this. It's a lot closer. It's a lot tighter. 25%. Why is that? As I said all along, it's easier to mail in a ballot. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a presidential election or a midterm. Now, you saw it was 25% less, so there's some people that didn't mail out a ballot. But as you can tell, the turnout is higher in if you compare it to the other 6 states, the turnout was higher. The turnout percentage difference was higher in the midterms compared to the other 6 states that didn't do mail-ins. So, how does this link? How does this have anything to do with the Delta variant? Well, as I said, the Democrats the Democrats want to they want to do mail-ins, and so they have to keep this going on until they get their quote-unquote voting rights bill passed, where there's just massive mail-ins, okay? And so they want to get it passed because without the turnout, because Republicans are going to turn out, when you look at the numbers, Republicans gained in 2010. When you look at the numbers, in 2010, the Republicans gained 46 seats. I'd have to take a look here. The Republicans gained 63 seats in the House of Representatives. 63. And in 2014, they gained 13. And then when you look at the Senate in 2010, the Republicans gained 6 seats. And in 2014, they gained 9. And then when you look at the governorships in 2010, the Republicans gained 6 governorships. In 2014, the Republicans gained 2. So in a lower, when you have a lower turnout, Republicans do well in lower turnouts. And so what the Democrats want to do is they want to get these massive mail-ins. They're going to use the Delta variant. Oh, I don't know if it's going to change it to Alpha or Charlie or whatever the heck they're going to change it to. They could change it by the time the midterms happen because Delta's a very weak term. It's like you're a Delta, you're weak. An Alpha male is strong. You know what I mean? So I think they're going to go towards an Alpha variant. And they're going to say, it is so bad out there, we need to do mail-in ballots. And they can cheat big time. I mean, they can cheat big time. I don't know, honestly, if that's going to help them secure. I don't know if mail-ins, just being legit mail-ins, meaning that if you send it back, your vote counts. If you don't send it back, there's no fraud. I don't know if that. I mean, that could affect. That could affect the Democrats keeping control. I think it might. I don't know. That's the thing. I'm not really sure. Because when I looked at the numbers in the past, I mean, Oregon, as I said, Oregon, they did have less voting. Even they did massive mail-in. They did have less voting. But obviously, other states had even less voting in Oregon because Oregon's mail-in. So, I mean, how much more? I mean, how much more? I had to compare Oregon with. I'd have to compare it all again to see if there was possible fraud, because Oregon lost 25%. If they did massive mail-ins everywhere, let's say Pennsylvania only lost like 5 or 10% of the voting, then that's irregularity again. Because Oregon, you can compare. Oregon is the control group. Oregon is the one that has the massive mail-ins. They've had massive mail-ins this whole entire time. So if your numbers don't exactly mirror Oregon, and I'm not talking about a difference of 25% and 20%. I'm talking about like a difference of 25% and like 10%, or 25% and 5%. I mean, just something crazy where the turnout is just extremely high for a midterm. And so I'm definitely going to look at that. And I'm saying turnout, just overall turnout. Okay, so the Democrats want massive mail-in ballots. They feel that the lower and there's no Trump on this ticket, so everyone knows who Trump is. These are people that are in politics. People that are low information voters. They're not going to know. So the media is really going to have to turn out hard for these Democrats. I mean, they're going to have to raise buku amounts of money to get these mail-ins of people to fill out the ballots and send it back. And they're going to have to do massive ballot harvesting. I mean, just massive ballot harvesting to win. I mean, it can be done, absolutely. I think they will do it. I think if they're going to make the virus an excuse again, who knows what the hell their names are going to say, Delta, Charlie, Alpha, whatever. If they're going to make it an excuse to do mail-ins, I'm going to be able to tell really easily just by previous numbers if they cheated or not. I don't have to know like what happened. I can just look at the numbers and I can tell you if they cheated. I mean, Oregon is 25%. 25% less voting in the midterms for Oregon. I mean, if you go to Georgia, that was at 40%, or Pennsylvania at 46%, and all of a sudden in the midterms it's like 5 or 10%. That's a problem. That's a problem. Because I think they're voting for him. Because in Oregon, if it's 25%, obviously there's people that decided not to mail their ballots out. That's what that means. Some people just decided not to mail the ballots out. So and when you look at 2008 and 2012, and then you compare it to 2010 and 2014, obviously the population is greater in 2010/2014 than it was in 2008 and 2012. So you can't use population as an excuse for that. And so, 25% less votes. So if a state like Pennsylvania decided to do the massive mail-ins, and it's like 5 or 10% less than the election, then that's a problem, because Oregon was 25%. You know what I mean? You got to be able to calculate the mathematics. So the Democrats want higher turnout. They want more people to mail out their ballots so they can win. And they're trying to get the low information voters to vote Democrat, because the Republicans are going to show up. As you said, in these previous midterms, and this is when a Democrat president was in office, Barack Obama won the White House in 2008. In 2010, the Republicans picked up 63 seats in the House of Representatives. Biden they should win the House next year. If they don't win the House, they cheated. I don't care. I don't care. When you look at these numbers, I don't really care. The Senate, Republicans should pick up some Senate seats. But if they cheat and they mail these ballots for these people, it's possible that they could cheat again. Then the Democrats could win. So this is just a generic prediction based on history. Okay, so right now it's 50-50 in the Senate. The Democrats have 50 and the Republicans have 50. And so right now, Nevada already has mail-ins. So that's going to stay Democrat for the Senate. Arizona, even if they don't have mail-ins, I still think it's going to stay Democrat just because of the guy who's running. He's gonna win. Okay, so Missouri, Republican. Ohio, Republican. And this is without mail-ins. This is a legitimate election. Florida will stay Republican. New Hampshire depends if Sununu runs. New Hampshire's a little bit interesting. I'm assuming he's not going to run. So that's going to go Democrat. And then these 4 states here, Republican. Republican. I'm just going to do that. Republican. All of them. This is a normal midterm. Republicans should have 51 seats in the Senate after the end of the day. In a fair election with everything going on, when you look at the turnout, the average turnout being lower, because let's face it, the people they vote in the midterms, they're more political and they have more political knowledge on average compared to people who are voting in a presidential election. Period. Okay, so that's a generic Senate prediction. Arizona could flip Republican. I don't think so. I think he'll just stick Democrat. Now, this, as I said, it depends on who runs. I mean, this is the toughest one right here. But I'm just going to go ahead and give it to the Democrats. I would say 51-49. Republicans gained 2 seats. I think they say gained 2 seats. They gained 1, actually. If they did massive mail-ins, forget about it. That might stay Republican, but Pennsylvania would go Democrat, probably Democrat. So if they do massive mail-ins, it'll be something like this. You see how that's a difference in power? Right now, the Democrats can't get anything passed because of people like Manchin in West Virginia and Lady, I forgot her name, in Arizona. You know who I'm talking about. They're getting some things passed, but a lot of things are not getting passed because, this guy's a moderate Democrat, more conservative on the Democratic side, I should say. So, I mean, if he didn't do that, he would probably lose. But he'll probably end up winning in 2024. I guess that's who it is. So, but yeah, with the mail-ins, it'll be something like this. And it's going to mirror the 2020 election if they had these massive mail-ins. Now, if Nevada didn't have massive mail-ins, that would go Republican too. I mean, if there was no massive mail-ins, then it would look like this, actually. Possibly Arizona could stay. This is tough because the guy's he's pretty popular down there. He's a Navy guy. He's just this could go either way. But Nevada would flip to the Republicans if they didn't do mail-ins. But mail-ins help the Democrats because you have lower information voters voting. And as I said, the numbers support it. I've actually found that very interesting. So, in conclusion, with the Delta variant, I call BS on it. I think it's stupid. I think it's just a way to. This is the start of the Democrats wanting to get mail-in ballots. I think at the end of the day, it's not going to be called the Delta variant. It could be called the Alpha variant or something like that. And that's just a prediction, you know, in maybe 6 months before the election starts, they're going to want to do these massive mail-ins. And the Republicans are just going to have to stop it. Like Georgia, they're going to have to stop it. Now, Georgia's an interesting state because their governor, Kemp, hopefully he can get out primary. Stacey Abrams is probably going to run again. And he's not very popular amongst Trump Republicans in Georgia. And Stacey Abrams can easily win, especially with the mail-ins. With the mail-ins, you can forget it. Georgia's done. Like and subscribe to my channel. Any comments would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.